So Courtney Kemp did a usual Instagram live yesterday evening, and she cleared up a few things in terms of the storyline between Zeke, Monet and Mecca, but not too much because we're being fed pieces of the puzzle which will make sense as the season goes on. Now she spoke about Lorenzo and whether he knows the truth, as well as going through all things Tariq and Lauren's Rolex. Now she spoke also about Effie and Diana's relationship and a lot more. So we're going to go through all the key details and clips from Courtney Kemp's Q&A, mainly focusing on Power Book 2 Ghost episode 4. But of course there's only one place to start, and that's with Monet, Zeke and Mecca. So I'm just going to play the clips for you first, and then we'll break it down.
All asking these questions. The first question that I'm definitely going to answer is Zeke, yes, is Mecca and Monet's son. That's absolutely it. It is not, Cane is not Mecca's son, and I'm only saying that definitively because people started to be confused. But they started to be confused because they assumed Cane was his son. In turn, everybody. When did Zeke come to live with the Tejadas? Does Lorenzo not know him? Great question. I know we want to talk about this. So Zeke came to live with the Tejadas when he started high school. So he lived in the South until he was 13, 14, and then came up to live with the Tejadas.
So there was a bit of confusion in the comment section because of the dialogue and how the story played out throughout episode 4. Were Mecca and Monet talking about Zeke, or were they talking about Cane? And for me, I had no doubt it was Zeke, especially when he paid the retainer fee to Davis McLean. Mecca even said they needed to protect our son. So they were definitely talking about Zeke, but everything will be revealed in terms of the storyline with Zeke, and even if it doesn't make sense now, it definitely will later on. But who does Zeke think his mother is? Now there was this in season 1. I'm sure Monet has more family, maybe a sister, and maybe this is who she sent Zeke to grow up with. Because Courtney Kemp did also confirm there was a woman who raised him, and hopefully we'll see them in season 3. But with regards to where Zeke grew up, this was also revealed to us in season 1 episode 1, which I went through in this video. Zeke told Tariq that he grew up in the South, and he came up for high school. But does Lorenzo know about Zeke? Let's see what Courtney Kemp said on this.
Zeke came when he was about to start high school. Lorenzo has been in jail longer than that, so no, Lorenzo does not know him. Okay.
Now, Lorenzo doesn't know that Zeke is Monet's son because he sent him to grow up in the South with someone else, and they made it clear in the conversation between Lorenzo and Monet in episode 4. Lorenzo said, Zeke is your nephew. So when Lorenzo does eventually find out the truth, which I'm sure he will, all hell will break loose and shit is gonna get crazy. And we're gonna get even more backstory to this, and they're just giving us one piece at a time, and by the end of the season, we'll be able to paint the whole picture, as will Lorenzo, Drew, Diana, and Cane. But speaking of Drew, we still haven't seen any interactions between him and Lorenzo.
So let's see. Why haven't we seen any Drew-Lorenzo interactions? Well, that's really interesting. We haven't seen a lot of Drew-Lorenzo interactions. Maybe that'll change. I'm not gonna say anything.
And it's true, we haven't actually seen them together yet. We've seen Cane and Diana visit him in prison, but we haven't seen Drew visit him, similarly to how we never saw any interactions from Kanan and Lulu in Raising Kanan. But I do think this is something that will change when and if Lorenzo is released from prison, because the kids are going to have to pick a side, and with Monet's lies and deceit, it's hard not to think Drew and Diana could choose Lorenzo's side. But let's move on and talk about Mecca, and this is something I mentioned before, but Courtney Kemp cleared it up in a Q&A. Now, Monet may know who Dante Spears is, but she doesn't know who Mecca is.
Mixtapes. Does Monet see Mecca as a threat to her secrets and power? Absolutely, but remember, she doesn't know he's Mecca. At this point in the season, she only knows that Dante, her ex-man, and her baby daddy has popped up. And so that's all she knows. Like, remember at the end of this episode when she goes to his hotel room and she says, I was wondering why you popped up right now? She does not know that Mecca is moving on the other side, and that's really important.
So Dante is going by the alias of Mecca. So even if Cane was to say the connect is Mecca, she won't know it's him, because he's playing a huge game. And he knows from the get-go that Cane was her son, because he did his research. He even stopped Nuff from spilling the beans to Cane when he mentioned that he's got a love interest in New York. And this situation is very similar to how Angela only knew James St. Patrick at the beginning anyway. She didn't know who Ghost was, and according to Monet, Dante is just this businessman who has an importing and exporting business, and according to Angela, she thought James was just his club owner. Now there are a lot of similarities between Ghost and Mecca, the penthouse suite, the way they both move and how they're both tough, and how they always seem to be 3 moves ahead of their enemies. But with Angela finding out about James' double life and that he was Ghost, I'm sure as time goes on, Monet will realize that Mecca's been playing her and the Tejadas all along. But the question is, will it be too late when she does find out? Will the damage already be done? And staying on Mecca, she also confirmed he's ex-military.
Let's see. What's up with Chef, says DC Social Butterfly. Chef is a long-term employee and compatriot of Mecca's. Well, I had a really good question here. Is Mecca ex-military? Yes, he is. He is ex-military. And so these guys that he's with, they're all people who he kind of served with or worked with. So that's where Chef comes from.
So Mecca is ex-military, and it was pretty obvious once enough mentioned that he spent some time out in Kuwait. And you could tell just the way he was moving. Cane mentioned how he's always doing this ninja appearing shit, and the way he snapped every one of Lil Guap's fingers, spying on Tariq, Brayden, and Cane. So the signs were definitely there, not only for Mecca, but for those around him. So that includes the chef, and maybe Nuff as well. But just coming away from Mecca and the Tahadas, and focusing more on Tariq, she also did confirm that Tariq doesn't know anything about Lauren's Rolex being a recording device.
Does Tariq have any suspicion about Lauren's Rolex yet? No. No, because Lauren's a rich girl, and exactly what he saw, which is, oh, is this Rolly from your parents? That's exactly what he thought. Asks, is Lauren protecting Tariq by taking the watch off? She is, but she doesn't know that Tariq is responsible for anything at all. She just knows that she doesn't want to, if someone's listening, she doesn't want to have sex with that person listening on her watch. But, you know, we'll see.
And this is something I spoke about in my trailer breakdown. Tariq did inherit Ghost's Rolex collection, so he would have known that Rolexes don't tick. But it doesn't seem like he knows that it's a recording device. So this Rolex is so dangerous when Tariq is around Lauren, and Lauren was protecting him because she doesn't want to catch Tariq saying anything, especially when she's got the Rolex on. Now Lauren isn't the only character to take a turn. We've seen Brayden turning as well. He was ready to shoot this jewelry store owner during this lick because he did pull the trigger, only to find out that Cane jammed the gun, and it definitely can't be overlooked that Brayden, he was ready to shoot someone. So we are seeing Brayden's dark turn as well. But will Tariq and Cane ever see eye to eye?
That, you know. Kayshawn 40, will Tariq and Cane ever see eye to eye? I wish they would. I wish they would get to a place where they actually really start to respect each other, because they have a lot to offer each other, for sure.
Now, I don't think they will ever see eye to eye, because Cane will always have this jealousy and be envious of Tariq because of how he came into the family, and essentially, he feels as if Tariq took his place. He wanted Monet to treat him the way she was treating Tariq. And this is what forced Cane to go and get what he thinks he deserves, as well as his actions against the family. So he went and found Mecca, who's given him this respect, who's teaching him and mentoring him. And we are seeing Cane wise up and learn a lot, but he is also being manipulated, which is going to be his biggest lesson. So do I think Cane and Tariq will ever see eye to eye? Not after he put Ramirez's badge in his or Brayden's drawer. I think Tariq will be done with Cane after Cane's latest move. But let's talk about Diana and Effie.
Asks, does Diana believe trust in Effie telling her not to mess with Tariq? This is interesting because maybe Diana believes it, maybe not. But what I think is really like specific about that scene, and I don't want to segue to Effie too early because we do want to have a whole Effie conversation because I think it's very significant here. But one of the things that is really important in that scene is that you guys see that there's some real hurt. I mean, Alex Lepre is an amazing actor, and one of the things that she did, I think, really well was kind of show there was some sadness in her when she was saying, don't mess with Tariq, he can't be trusted. It wasn't as simple as like, you know, her trying to like find an angle. She does actually care about Diana, and she does actually care about Tariq, and it's a little bit of a complicated situation, so, you know.
Now, after Courtney kept mentioning it, if you go back and rewatch this scene, you can definitely see it within Effie's facial expressions. There is some hurt, and she's trying to look out for Diana, because even though Effie does care about Tariq, I don't think she fully trusts him, because she knows who he is, because that's also because she knows who she is, and she's a monster. They're both monsters. Effie knows Tariq, because she's the one who screwed him over at Chote. But this is definitely an interesting dynamic between Effie and Diana. Can they be on the same page throughout the season? I think so, because Diana is learning a lot from Effie. She's a mentor to Diana, because she's a lot more experienced in a lot of things in terms of school, love life, moving weight, and the streets. So Diana will definitely learn a lot from Effie, and we're going to learn more about Effie's backstory as well. But elsewhere in her life, someone actually asked her the question about Simon Stern being the most powerful person on Power, which I did a video on last week.
Is Simon the most powerful character in Power? That's interesting. I don't know. It depends on how you look at Power, right? Because Simon doesn't use a gun, you know, right? Simon doesn't have that kind of street power. I would say that that kind of baton of who has the most power is passed from person to person. Sometimes I think it's Davis, you know what I mean? Sometimes I think Davis is the most powerful person. Sometimes I think, there can be moments where it's Tariq because he knows more secrets than everybody.
And it is kind of true, power does find its way to different people at different times in the show. For example, Cane thinks he holds all the power and the control after episode 4 by placing Ramirez's badge in Tariq or Brayden's drawer, and he may still do for a while until Tariq figures a way to get him back, because he definitely will. And she also touched on Drew being molded around Michael Corleone, and this is something I'm going to go through in a bit more detail when I do an in-depth analysis on Drew's character for my next video. But I'm just going to finish up the video and leave you with what Courtney Kemp teased for episode 5, and her teasing how she's going to be really angry with both Cane and Tariq for lying to her about the murder of Jabari.
Oh, yes. Thank you. You guys are so great. I love you all so much. Can I just tell you? Oh, so you wanted a big hint for next episode. Well, I will say that now that Monet knows that Cane and Tariq were both involved in the Jabari Reynolds murder, she is going to have a lot of feelings about the fact that they both lied to her. And so Monet is going to exact her revenge. I'm not going to say what that is, but Monet is going to have a lot to talk to both her son, and I guess Tariq in a way is kind of a spiritual son for Monet, but she's going to talk to those two boys about what they were doing.